Hello, everybody. It is Monday, December 10th, 2018. I'd like to call to order the 2018 Cook County Truth in Taxation public hearing. The Park Board will now hold a public hearing on the 2018 proposed tax levy for the Wilmette Park District. I will first call on Steve Wilson and/or Steve Holloway to explain the reasons for the levy and any proposed increases.
That'd be Steve Holloway.
All right. I have a hard copy because I don't have a laptop.
Good evening. Notice for the 2018 tax levy public hearing was published on December 6, 2018 in the Wilmette Beacon and posted in the Park District's info financial category of the Wilmette Park District website. This tax levy is made up of different types of taxes: tax capped amounts, non-tax capped amounts, and amounts derived from funding ordinances such as debt issuances. First, we have the general corporate fund. For that, we are levying $2,260,000. This particular fund is made up of park maintenance and administration support, and this represents about 53% of the expenditure amounts for the fund. The next fund is the recreation fund, and we're levying $310,000. This fund is made up of special events and no fee-based or free recreation activities, such as the 3rd of July activities. The other $12.5 million expended from this fund is raised from fee for services. The next fund is the Social Security Tax Purpose Fund. We are levying $780,000 for this fund, and this fund is used to fund the employer's portion of the Social Security and Medicare. The next fund is the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. We are levying $810,000 for that fund. And the purpose of this fund is to cover the district's portion of the employee pension plan. The next fund is the Security Fund, and we are levying $85,000 for that fund. This fund is used to cover the security and police aids at various parks and events, specifically Gilson. The next fund is the Liability Insurance Fund, and we are levying $430,000 for that fund. This fund is to cover the district risk management program, including property and liability insurance and workers' compensation claims. And finally, we have the audit fund. We are levying $25,500 for that fund. And this fund is to cover the annual review of the district's accounting records and preparation of the comprehensive annual financial report. All of these funds make up the aggregate tax levy for 2018, which is capped at the lower of 5% or the consumer price index from the prior year, that being 2.1% for the 2018 tax levy, an increase of $41,839 or 0.90% for a total of $4,700,500. The non-tax cap funds include special recreation for the handicapped and debt service. We are levying $715,000 for the special recreation fund. And this fund covers the district contribution to the Northern Suburban Special Recreation Association and fees to provide people with special needs an opportunity to participate in the district's program. It also funds the district costs for compliance with the American with Disabilities Act. This brings the 2018 subtotal levy to $5,415,500, or an increase of 1.92% from the 2017 extended levy. The dollar increase is $101,999. Lastly, the district will levy approximately $2,823,496, and this is for the principal and interest payments on bond indebtedness to retire debt issued as part of its funding of capital improvements. These are bond ordinance on file with the Cook County Clerk's Office. All total, the 2018 levy is $8,238,996, an increase of $40,981 from the 2017 extended levy, or an overall increase of 0.50%.
Thank you. All persons desiring to be heard will now have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony with respect to the 2018 proposed tax levy. First, are there any written or oral comments from the commissioners? Hearing none. Are there any written or oral comments from the public? All right. We will now adjourn the 2018 Truth and Taxation public hearing. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Sorry.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Olvani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Tax hearing is adjourned.
Thank you. I call to order the December 10th, 2018 regular meeting of the Wilmette Park District Board of Park Commissioners. Mr. Secretary, will you please take the roll?
I know you guys are all here, but Commissioner Abbott?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner
Here.
Pelleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Olvani?
Here.
Commissioner Shelley?
Here.
Commissioner Wolf?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. First on our agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the November 12th regular board meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the November 12th, 2018 regular meeting.
November 10th.
I'll second the November 12th regular meeting minutes.
Was it November 10th? There's November 12th on here. Was it the 10th or the 12th?
It's the 12th,
Okay.
and I did correct it on the minutes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes?
I had just a small potential correction that I gave to Steve earlier. I don't know if that made it in the minutes or not.
We did not adjust the ones that are here before the board.
In the approval of the voucher list in the second paragraph, talked about President Wolf asked about payments to, and then reversed to W.B. Olson for the Gilson construction project. Superintendent Holloway clarified the payment to W.B. Olson was, and then I changed the wording a little bit, was initiated in error and subsequently canceled. The check should have been issued to the subcontractors directly. I was just clearing up the language there.
Okay. Any other comments or corrections? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Olvani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is communications and correspondence. In your packet, there is a letter from Trudy Gibbs regarding the easement request by Canal Shores, something that we've been discussing for several months now. Did any other commissioners have any other communications or correspondence?
Well, we did get a letter
There was
recently.
a few
Very
things. I'm not sure if they're.
From the
Yeah, I'm sorry. There are
Canal
more
Shores.
additional ones in our packet here.
Oh,
There's one from Kate Gaia from the League of Women Voters regarding the stormwater process and ideas for that. There's also one from Ann Cope regarding the easement, or the stretch of land, sorry, the beach land, and access to the land, being able to walk along the water. And finally, no, I think that's it.
It was
Oh.
from Canal Shores.
The last one was from Canal Shores regarding asking us to, or thanking us for appreciation in trying to oppose the easement. I know that staff is looking into the lakefront issue with the fencing. I don't know if anyone else.
With the runner?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
and will this get added to the next lakefront meeting? Like, we put this in the packet, so.
You can? Yes.
Yes, it can be discussed further there. Okay.
And then we had one last night from the Kitchies about a memorial,
Which
which wouldn't make it in here.
Oh, I thought it was Mulvihill.
I think there were several names.
It's both.
It is.
Yeah.
Steve
Which
wrote it up.
again, staff has been talking with them, and they've been going back and forth about how to address that issue. Okay. Any other correspondence? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward to recognition of visitors. I remind anyone that would like to address us that you have 3 minutes to address us, and we ask that your comments be directed to the entire board, that it's pertain to what we're discussing this evening, and I think that's about it. Does anybody like to address us this evening? All right. Hearing none, we'll move for, one thing under our recognition of visitors is we had a retirement here recently. Kathy Bingham, who was here for 39 years, recently retired, and we would like to recognize her. So with that.
Okay. This is a resolution commemorating the contributions of Kathleen C. Bingham. Should she come forward for this?
Oh,
Yes.
only if we really want to embarrass
Please.
her.
Of course, she should
She has to
come
stand up at the
forward.
podium and
Yes.
do a little dance or something, I think.
Maybe
too.
update us on some recent developments.
Okay, so I'm putting my glasses on for this one. Whereas Kathleen C. Bingham has faithfully served the Wilmette Park District for a combined total of 39 years, beginning in 1979, the last 11 years as Superintendent of Recreation. In the course of her tenure and resulting from her dedication, hard work, and leadership, the Wilmette Park District has evolved into the primary provider of recreation activities for Wilmette residents of all ages and abilities. Whereas Kathleen C. Bingham, during her 39 years of service, has held multiple positions, beginning with the Cultural Arts Supervisor position, where she administered a very popular and successful set of programs, productions, and events in both visual and performing arts. Kathy played a vital role in moving the hub of the district's recreational programming from Highcrest Middle School to the Community Rec Center in 1995, where she held the position of Recreation Program Manager until ultimately becoming the Recreation General Manager. In her time at the Community Recreation Center, she oversaw tremendous growth in Wilmette's recreational programming, including gymnastics, sports, fitness, early childhood, the arts, general recreation, summer camps, and special events. Ultimately, in her final position of Superintendent of Recreation, Kathy continued to oversee all she had developed at the Community Rec Center while adding the Wilmette Lakefront operation to her responsibilities. During this time, she was successful in managing and enhancing the day-to-day operation of the lakefront and the growth of the sailing beach, while at the same time playing an integral part of creating the plans for the Gilson Park Beach House and parking lot, which is set to open in 2019. Whereas the Board of Park Commissioners and the community at large wish to recognize the extraordinary efforts and dedication that Kathleen C. Bingham has shown the residents during her 39 years of service with the Wilmette Park District. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Park Commissioners of the Wilmette Park District, on behalf of all Wilmette residents and those users of the Wilmette Park District facility, does hereby acknowledge and pay tribute to Kathleen C. Bingham for her contributions to parks and recreation in Wilmette, and that we express our sincere thanks and respect for her, and be it further resolved that a copy of this testimonial resolution shall be duly executed and included and preserved in the minutes of the Board of Park Commissioners at the Wilmette Park District, and that the original of this resolution shall be presented to Kathleen C. Bingham.
With that, I move to approve Resolution 2018-R-3, a resolution commemorating the contributions of Kathy C. Bingham.
Second.
May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes, absolutely.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Pelleton,
Yes?
Commissioner Olvani,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you.
I promise this won't be as lengthy as my last time I was in front of the microphone.
She had 3 minutes to.
3 minutes. Clock start.
Be respectful.
Wait a minute, the clock is on.
Okay. Thank you all so much. It's very humbling. This last few weeks has been a very humbling experience for me. And again, none of this is possible without the hard work, dedication of the staff I've worked with for the last almost 40 years. And I was lucky to have worked with some of the best people in the field. I've also been fortunate to work with some amazing board members. These usually aren't at the mouth level of the people standing at the time. You guys have all been such a joy to work with. Yeah, sure, we've had, interesting discussions, and we don't always agree, but we always worked hard and work together to accomplish really significant things. And this opportunity I have had has just enriched my life so much, and I thank you all so much. I will truly miss 99% of all of this. And it's been a joy and a pleasure. Thank you all very much. I will treasure this. Thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda is the approval of the voucher list.
Yes, I move to approve the voucher list in the amount of $4,320,996.58, a copy of which is to be attached to and become a permanent part of the meeting minutes of this meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions or corrections?
Observations. This is the time of year in which we pay our debts down. There's about $2.4 million of bond payments and principal payments in here. And there's also significant payments to the early stages of the beach house construction project. That's just an observation.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I had just a curiosity question none of us could answer in the having pizza before the meeting. What is BB Rights? That was one of the descriptions.
Jerry was correct. Broadway bound.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So like the play,
The rights for
the
what they
script.
play.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
couldn't figure out what it was. Thank you.
Because they have to pay for the rights. That makes
Once
sense.
again, our own acronyms getting in the way.
Any other comments or questions? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner Olvani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Voucher list is approved.
Thank you. Next up is our executive director's report.
Great, thank you. It's December, so my report's brief. With Kathy's retirement, brings in a new superintendent of recreation, so I'm pleased to announce and introduce Emily Gwynn as our new superintendent of recreation. She's here tonight in attendance at her first board meeting. She comes to us from the Skokie Park District, where she was the facility manager at the Weber Center. Prior to that, she worked at the Glencoe Park District, overseeing recreation programs and events. And she started last week, Tuesday, so she's completing her first 5 days, and she still shows up to work, so we're really excited about that. Looking forward to the items on your agenda. We just did the tax hearing. You have the tax levy and the reduction ordinance on your agenda later on, as well as the 2019 board meeting schedule. My memo here does state that we meet on the second Monday of the month, and I stated in a way that that's an absolute, but I should have updated my language because starting last year, we started moving the meetings around when the schools are not in session. So the October meeting is not on the second Monday, it's on Wednesday to avoid Columbus holiday. So that is the only thing I want to clarify versus what I've written here, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Steve? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward to the committee reports. Lakefront Committee.
All right. The Lakefront Committee met on December, I have December 10th down here, but it's December 3rd at Malincrot. The main topic of discussion or interest was that we had an update on the Lakefront construction project from Dave Olson of WB Olson. He said that permit delays, some of only 2 weeks, but some of a month or even slightly more than that, had delayed the start of some of the work down there. But they're moving ahead, and as long as the weather stays about where it is, that they feel like they'll finish on time and hopefully on budget. Most of the underground utilities have been installed, and they are fairly certain they'll finish installing them before the end of the year. They have 40% of the curbing complete in the new parking lot, and they hope to get that up to 80% before it gets too much colder, since that requires pouring concrete. 30% of the gravel base was put in place for the parking lot. This is a week ago, and I believe they've added substantially more than that in the last week. They originally anticipated having all the curb, gravel, and the binder course of asphalt in place by now. However, the delays in permitting and some delays in weather prevented them from doing that. Foundations for the new buildings are all in place, as well as piping for electric, water, and sprinkler. The concession stand concrete has been poured, and there's actually a building there, and it has a roof of sorts on it. I'm not sure if that's the permanent roof or not. And the men's washroom is being formed up now. They said they're going to do some prefab work of the remaining formwork in the theater shed in order to facilitate working when conditions are not ideal. Plan to set steel in February, and they're going to be installing the light poles using a directional borer to avoid disruption to the parking lot work. Temperature's been colder than average. So we're crossing our fingers the temps stay where they are, because as long as they stay where they are, they can keep on going. That was it for the lakefront. But then we had an Eagle Scout project. Ben Lewis of Troop 5 is going to build small decks and benches for the 2 shower poles in the Sailing Beach area. And that was most of it. Thank you.
Any questions for the Lakefront Committee? Thank you very much. Facilities Committee would be next. However, they didn't meet, so there's no report. Same is true with Parks and Recreation Committee. They did not meet, so there's no report there.
We did not, but I would like to just update, if I can ask Jerry, because we didn't meet, we had the Committee of the Whole Stormwater meeting instead, but the Langdon Park update.
Langdon Park equipment was delivered on November 30th. Contractors, even though the weather isn't great down there, he's got all the equipment in. It's all in concrete. Hoping to get most of it wrapped up this week if the weather cooperates. And as soon as he finishes, then we'll come by with the membrane and to put on top of the gravel and put some bark chips so we can open up for the winter. And then come springtime, when it gets above 50 degrees overnight, they'll be able to. We'll have to close it down for a couple weeks to put the poured-in-place rubber.
There could be a playground there soon.
What's that?
Could be a playground in Langdon very soon.
Yeah, very soon.
Okay.
The weather holds out a lot sooner than we hope. And then also the bluff going down to Langdon is really eroded. We ended up moving the fence in so it's a little safer, so it's actually sitting on the thing. Cut the path down to about 5 foot wide, and then we smoothed out the drop-off at the end. So we'll keep it open, so people are going to walk down there anyways, so we'll figure keep it as safe as possible. And if it gets worse, then we'll end up closing it like we did last year up at the top so people can't access that part of that.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Okay.
Just a note, that'll make it interesting for next year in terms of whether or not we can open it as a swimming beach, since we need to have a road going down there that ambulances can access.
Right. Yeah, it's a little narrow, and I don't think we want to cut any deeper into the bluff to go back there.
Jerry, before you get past that, Steve, you and I had a communication via email about a potential grant, right, for coastal management that the National Park Service actually approached. A fellow that I got to know from the National Park District mentioned this as being a possibility. Where have we gone
so
with that?
You had done an electronic introduction for us. I reached out to him based on that. He responded with just the information that's already on the DNR's website and said they're the ones who administer it. They're the ones you need to be talking to. So that's where I'll be addressing future questions.
Okay. It just seems like it's simple place to go to try to get some advice from an authority on coastal land, and the the grant seems to be a fit right into what our issues are probably going to be down there in the near term.
Yep.
So I don't know how much you guys have spoken about it, but
we have not spoken very much about it.
Jerry and you,
Jerry and I.
Okay.
Yeah, because anything we'd put back there now would probably just go away again. So it's just that volatile down there with the water coming in. Today when I was down there had to be about 30 feet of beach that was there to the water's edge from the bluff. So, but you can go down there other days and the water's just smashing up on the rocks again. So changes.
So hopefully we can get a little bit of guidance and funds from the National Park Service to figure out what the next steps are going to be there.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Anything else from Parks and Rec?
No, I thought that would be of interest to the community.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Golf Operations Committee didn't meet, so there's no report from them. And finally, the Financial Planning and Policy Committee.
We did meet on, Monday, November 26th. There were 3 main items on the agenda. One was the compensation and benefits analysis. The committee gave staff the green light to engage GovHR to perform a review of the full and part-time salary ranges and positions, as well as the benefits. The objective is to have a pay plan that is internally equitable and externally competitive, and lay a foundation for a job-related performance management system. So, and the deliverables are going to be recommendations on how to deal with any specific problems that come out of that study. They'll review and evaluate job descriptions, establish a job classification system, survey like districts, and in some cases private companies for those positions that cross over, and then develop salary schedules with ranges and grades, and then calculate the financial impact of making any changes, assuming we want to make them. The committee requested that the proposal include committee input up front as part of their information gathering phase, and as well as a review of and possible input to the draft report when they get to that point, and then a presentation of the final report to either the board, if we choose to want it here, or at the committee level, whichever the board wants to do. We also talked about third quarter results. We looked all the way down to the department level. In summary, the operating revenues, not including the property taxes, are slightly ahead of 2017 and slightly behind budget. Fortunately, operating expenses are below both budget and last year, especially in the salaries. We do have some budget timing issues for property taxes and capital spending that we'll make sure aren't repeated in 2019. And then the last item was the tax levy, which we talked about a little bit earlier. The first payment due in 2019 for the recently issued $2 million debt service extension base was left out of the original tax levy information we were talking about, where we had, I think, a 4.11 overall decrease before. Now we're at a 0.5% increase. The difference being that 1 year, 1/5 of the payment roughly, or 1/5 of the debt. And so that's why the levy's increasing 0.5% versus what we thought was going to go down 4%. So that's it.
Thank you. Do you have a motion for us?
Yeah, I'll do a motion.
Thank you.
I move to approve ordinance 2018-0-9, an ordinance providing for the levy and assessment of taxes for the Wilmette Park District, Cook County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2018, and ending December 31st, 2018.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner Olvani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Ordinance is approved.
Thank you. I believe
Want me to do the other one?
Yes, please.
Okay. I move to approve Resolution 2018-R-4, a resolution directing the manner of any reduction of the aggregate extension of the 2017 tax levy. That would be the 2018 tax levy, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Of the Wilmette Park District, Cook County, Illinois, in order to comply with the property tax extension limitation law as recommended by the Financial Planning and Policy Committee.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this? All right. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner Olvani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for the Financial Planning and Policy Committee? Hearing none, we will move forward to unfinished business, the stormwater project. Do we have an update or any information to just?
The only information I can provide at this time is the engineering team hired by the Village of Wilmette has been taking some boring samples at different park sites. But other than that, there's been no more progress as far as meetings that I've attended.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from?
I guess I have some comments. I wanted to refer everybody's back to the letter that we just got from or email we got from the League of Women Voters. I frankly thought that this was a really very well-written note. I think it did a great job of talking about a lot of the questions that I think we as a board should be considering. Overall, I think they make a lot of very, very strong points of issues that we should be considering, and I guess my only real question is, where do we go from here? What is our plan? When are we gonna meet? What are we gonna discuss? How are we gonna discuss it? One of the things that they point out in here in particular is, just to quote, they just said we not to quote it, but anyway, they essentially say that meeting, get in front of the public early and often, I think is a good idea. They think it's a good idea, and I do too. So my question is, what is our board going to do in order to do that?
I think we had floated the idea last month of doing, having community input on each park that's potentially going to be affected, starting in January, and starting with the community playfields.
Community playfields, is that's the first
because that's
phase.
the first phase. I still like that idea to have that done then, and then the next month would be, I can't remember what the second phase was off the top of my head.
I believe that's
Hibbard and then Thornwood. And kind of getting input from the community about the impact of these tanks.
And how do we want to get impact from the community? Do we want it via email? Do we want it via public comment? Do we want it, how are we looking to get input?
I think both.
So I've kind of outlined it in my head in an email to Amy that I was going to seek input through our board brief emails, through the village e-news, because that was a request from the board here at the last meeting, that people send letters, emails, whatever, but also inviting everyone to each one of those public board meetings where we're going to have those input sessions facilitated within to come and discuss it directly in person with the board as well. We're going to put it on our website. We talked about doing direct mailing at the last meeting as well, in line with similar to how we've done with other projects like our playgrounds and when we seek public input. So it was going to be a lot of outreach starting right after the holidays to get people involved.
Just for clarification, Stephen, you talked about board input meetings. Are you talking about regular board meetings, or are you talking
We talked about doing it within the framework of a regular board meeting because we knew, from a scheduling point of view, we'd have board members here.
Okay.
I think it's important that everybody hear all the comments. I think having it as a full board discussion is valuable.
Yeah, I worry just about the format of the meeting because it's not supposed to be a give and a take, and I sort of picture in my mind more of a give and take for that community input than just somebody coming up and talking and then they're 3 minutes and walking away. So I just put that out there as how do we get that conversation back and forth?
I mean, one idea along those lines is the way that we've gone about building some of the playgrounds in the neighborhood. This is substantially different and substantially more expensive than building a playground, but the impact on the community, is, significant. So having public meetings at the particular sites may provide a better venue, to your point, of creating a give and take and community input. It may take a lot longer, but it seems to me to be something that may be a good idea to consider.
So would you then put off a public meeting for community playfields until it was good weather?
No, I mean, I don't see any reason why not to. We did all these other meetings in bad weather anyway. I mean, it was really
in January?
In February.
You're talking about
We would do them indoors and not outside.
You can do them anywhere, but I mean, to see, I think, from my perspective, to actually see where this easement is going to go, theoretically, to the community playfield from, I forgot the name of the street, from Meadow Drive, right? That's a big deal, right? And I think that people are not really going to get the perspective on it until they actually walk it and see it.
I mean, we did it for K, both inside and outside.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know why we wouldn't do it for these.
Talking about a lot. We're talking about a lot of money here, folks.
I know. I like the idea of community meetings in the location, near the location or at the fields. Yes, I like that. Good concept.
Are you thinking, just so then that meeting, in addition to having like a board community meeting as well, or that would take the place of having something during our board meeting?
What do you think, Gordon?
I don't think you need to do both. I mean,
right.
I think that you're going to get more out of the meetings in the community than you would out of a board meeting. And then
Keep it open to both, though.
yeah, I mean, people can come and make
Yeah,
comments at
they'll
board
still
meeting if they
come and
want.
make comments.
I mean, I would imagine it's going to be on the agenda every single month, right? So we can talk about it every single month. But to have these site visits is probably not, you don't have to, I mean, I think it's probably a good idea.
Would it be
I
different?
guess I'm a little unclear with this process at this point, because it's my understanding this is really more of a village-driven project. Are we talking about having a meeting in conjunction with the village being there?
Well, the village can't do anything without us agreeing to it. So it's not a village-driven project. There has to be a governmental, there has to be an intergovernmental agreement.
The size
It'll
of
never happen without an intergovernmental agreement.
the size of the tanks and how the system works is definitely a village issue. The impact to the parks is our issue, so.
I think that the League of Women Voters has a really good point that it's going to impact the parks for hundreds of years.
I think
Right?
we-
So, I mean, I think it's a park project is just as much as it's somebody else's fiber. I mean, they're going to pay for it, but it's going to be on the park district's
Yeah,
land.
I'm just trying to understand. So
Well,
we'll
I
do
think
all this
Steve's got enough
preliminarily.
input now, he can probably synthesize it
So,
and come
John,
back with
just to
something.
clarify, so your idea would be to have it kind of marked off where the tanks would be so people could see, or what? I guess I'm trying to figure out.
We
Yeah,
don't
like the,
know that. We don't have that.
I haven't thought it through that much.
Okay.
I mean, I literally, just when Gordon mentioned that, I thought of a little bit more about it.
Well, and because.
But I mean, it does, I mean, how it's going to impact, I actually got a lot of comfort in reading the reports that were done on the ones that were in Glenview and in Northbrook. It's a lot more understandable to me once I actually saw it. And I think it actually may create a little bit more buy-in from the community to think that, okay, this is a reasonable idea as opposed to this gigantic tank that we're going to put under the ground, right? So, yeah, I do think that marking it off, I don't know if anybody's been to Canal Shores, but they've marked off everything about, like, what's going to happen at Canal Shores. I think it makes a big impact when you see what's going to happen and where it's going to happen.
But I don't think we're certain even at the community playfields where it'd be marked off, because I felt like at the committee of the whole it was still open for discussion, and that something was brought up about possibly even considering still doing the parking lot portion of community playfields. Right?
I don't think any exact plans
Right,
have been
so there was
devised,
no-
but we
so-
can
Well, I guess that's the overall
conceptualize it.
point, is that
Yeah.
there's not that much information
Right.
out there right now, but
So
to
until we
be
get
ahead of the
more-
curve, I think some of the criticism that we've received, I think, is that we haven't been more proactive. And what I'm advocating is being more proactive as opposed to reactive.
And I like that as an idea. I just don't know how feasible that is until we have something to work with.
Right.
I mean,
That's
we
fine.
could take
Yeah.
guesses where things are going to go and how big it's going to be and that kind of stuff. Or we could wait for the village to say, well, this is how big it's going to be and this is where we think it would be best located, and unfortunately then react to that. I don't know that we have a whole lot of choice in that matter. And I agree, the League of Women Voters memo is very good. I think all of those issues are points that have been raised when we've talked about this previously. But it's good to have them all in one place and to keep them top of mind.
I mean, I guess the only thing I would say on that is that we do have a lot to say about this. This will never happen without an intergovernmental agreement. We have to sign a document that says you can do this. So we have something to say.
I don't think I said that we don't have anything to
Well,
say.
at one point you were saying, like, we don't really have much. It's good.
well, until there's a plan, I think you were saying, until there's a plan put forth that we could give comment on.
Sure.
Yeah, that's if that wasn't clear, that's what I meant, is that it is a reactive process only because we're not the ones who are designing the.
Well, it's both.
Well, I think it's
both.
Yeah, that's a really
It's
good point. We're
exactly
not
what-
designing it, but we at least have to know where it's going to go, and we
But
need
it is an iterative process. They may have to tell us what the guts of the thing are under the ground and stuff, but once you get past that, it's got to, be something where we go back and forth.
Exactly. You don't ever want to get too far ahead with the design. You don't want to get too early. It's an iterative process, that's all. And so you may have to do this more than once, and that's okay. It's all right to
I
say,
think
okay, we've taken your comments, and this is what we've seen. This is how we've responded to your comments. Now how do you feel about what we've designed? So, yes.
The points that are in this email wouldn't necessarily have to be discussed outside at the park. I mean, if that is making people hesitant, that we can still discuss the things that are in here that I think are obvious to us to be at top of mind with respect to each park, one at a time.
One at a time. I agree with that.
And,
So we can stay focused.
publicizing that meeting is huge. But we do that all the time, and we see what we get.
And I think we need to be looking at, to John's point, the long-term effects of this and making sure that whatever gets put back in the park is what we want put back in the park. So I think that's
to me is the biggest focus.
Me too. I think that's the most critical piece of this for me.
Yes.
I mean, I've actually driven to both of these parks since that last meeting. You would never have a clue that there's something under the ground at the place in Glenview.
Right.
No idea.
I
mean,
saw the
there's
parking lot one, too.
yeah, the parking lot one. You'd have no idea that there's something there, right? And you have no idea, as Jerry said last time, that there's something under Northbrook. So to make residents feel more comfortable with that, and to make us feel more comfortable that this doesn't have any long-term environmental impacts, is sort of what at least I'm looking for as a commissioner and a resident. Is just, do we do our due diligence on this? That's all.
And the new Trier project that was recently put in, the east parking lot was built over vaults as well. So yes, it can be done, and you don't know it's there.
So to try to bring all this back together, what do we want to have our next steps? What do we want our process to be? How do we want to move forward with this? I want to make sure that we're using our time wisely, that we're not asking, we obviously want to get input from the community, but not having so many meetings that we're, beating a dead horse.
I'd let Steve put together a trial balloon and circulate around, see what.
And I don't think it can be contingent on 7 board members being available.
I agree.
I mean, as many of us that can go, great, but otherwise, I feel comfortable that staff can collect comments and share them with us. We've done that for many, many things. Because otherwise, we get very stuck, scheduling-wise.
That's my concern.
Exactly, which is why we originally said board meetings.
Right.
But you make a good comment, Gordon, as far as having a back and forth, that would be tough in a full board meeting.
Okay, so we want to ask staff then to put together some sort of a
Next steps?
a process and next steps of recommendation of how this should be going.
Yes, I can work with that.
Okay. So then I'm guessing if we're doing that, then we won't be having any sort of public input at the next board meeting because we'd have to discuss this next step, or?
We can always have public
I think you should just leave it as an unfinished business.
Okay.
Agenda
always
this
have
way.
public input,
Right, because I think that the way that our new rules read is that you're really only supposed to talk about something that's on the agenda.
Right.
Public input should be on something that's on the agenda.
So, but to what we were saying before, like to focus on one park at each meeting. So the next meeting, it would focus on.
No, I don't think we're there.
I think we
Okay.
leave it stormwater update or whatever it says.
Okay.
And
Maybe
leave
by
the
February.
specific parks to different meetings.
Okay.
I think we have more to learn still, like from the village, and to maybe work with Steve and the staff to get some preliminary plans in place to this process. So maybe if we can push the first one off till February,
Right.
it'd probably be.
I agree. I like the idea of being able to talk about any park here. I also like the
Yeah.
idea of let's do this a park at a time.
Yeah.
So we can stay focused on that park. So, yes.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions around stormwater?
But we encourage the media to really get the word out and everybody out there listening.
That we want input.
A headline
Yes.
would be really nice, Todd.
Yes.
Next
We
on
don't
our
want anyone to say they didn't know about it.
Next on our agenda, new business. We have a meeting scheduled for next year. May I have a motion regarding that, please?
I'll make a motion. I will move to approve the 2019 regular board meeting schedule for January 14, February 11, March 11, April 8th, May 13, June 10, July 8, August 12th, September 9th, October 16th, November 11th, and December 9th, with the annual meeting scheduled for May 13th, immediately following the regular board meeting.
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments about this?
I don't know what the schools do. I know that November 11th is Veterans Day. It's
They're in.
They go to school that
they're
day.
in school, and so we're okay.
Yep. And the prior Wednesday, the 16th, is the only one that's out of the
Out of the
pattern
Mondays,
there, yeah.
it's a Wednesday. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Vanney?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Meeting schedule is approved.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is adjourning to a closed session. I move to adjourn to closed session to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the district, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired, the discussion of setting the price for sale or lease of property owned by the district, and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent in accordance with Sections 2C, 5, 6, and 11 of the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
Any questions about this? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Vanney?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes. Thank you.